Welcome everyone to World Gone Weird. Buckle up, because it feels like the world is trying to break some kind of record for weirdness this week.
Oh, I'm ready. I've got my popcorn, my doomsday bunker blueprints. What's on the menu for today's special of Everything's Going to Explode?
I must admit the Al Jazeera headline Live Iran vows to retaliate over U.S. attacks. Trump warns of regime change is not exactly soothing. The escalation is concerning even from a purely scientific standpoint of potential impact.
See, there it is. The regime change thing. Trump's never going to let that go, is he? Even if his own people are saying that's not the goal. Makes you wonder what the real goal is, you know?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like there are multiple conflicting narratives happening at once. We get reports of the U.S. bombing Iranian nuclear sites, then Trump is casually throwing around regime change again, meanwhile the rest of the world is saying de-escalate. It's chaos.
It's like watching a toddler play with matches near a fireworks factory. And then he's got a megaphone going, I meant to do that. While everyone is screaming, put it down. I mean, it's entertaining in a dark, dystopian way.
The potential for escalation is far from entertaining when considering the potential fallout. The reports that Iran might consider closing the Strait of Hormuz is alarming from an energy perspective alone.
Closing the Strait of Hormuz? That's a massive economic blow, like globally. Does anyone actually think through the consequences of these actions? Is anyone calculating the actual risk-reward ratio here? Or is it all just gut feeling and political posturing?
Well, the BBC article, "Could this be the most significant NATO since the Cold War?" points to the possibility that European allies are desperate to prove Trump wrong about them freeloading, and the summit's focus may be designed around Trump. I mean, that itself is pretty weird, right? Designing foreign policy around one guy's ego.
Oh, absolutely. It's like the entire world stage is now Trump's therapy session. Everyone's just trying to manage his mood swings. Yes, Mr. President, 5% of GDP on defense sounds perfect. Whatever makes you feel better, sweetie.
The BBC article does highlight the U.S. has nuclear weapons stored in Italy, Belgium, Germany, and the Netherlands. The potential for a wider war raises the question about the underlying motivations for such actions. It makes one wonder, can the underlying strategic goals be translated into testable hypotheses? Does the risk-reward calculus justify the use of military force in these situations based on the available data and historical analysis?
Testable hypotheses? This isn't a science lab, it's global politics. Although, maybe it should be treated like a science lab. More data, less, trust me, bro kind of leadership. The article says Europe's trust in the US as its ultimate protector has been shaken. That's putting it mildly. It's more like shattered into a million pieces.
And what happens to education in a world where trust is shattered, where international cooperation seems impossible? It's really concerning to think of what this all means for curricula, for funding, for the very definition of knowledge.
Oh, education. That's easy. We'll just have America First history classes, where we learn about how awesome we are and how everyone else is just jealous. And science? Well, whatever science confirms our awesomeness, obviously.
Sadly, that sentiment isn't just contained in one country, and that's the problem. The U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, as reported by USA Today. Obliteration is an accurate term. The white structure shown is deeply embedded into the rock, with even its roof well below ground level, and completely shielded from flame. Trump wrote on social media. However, the IAEA have not commented. It highlights the gap between scientific understanding and political action in global affairs. This lack of consideration for long-term outcomes feels especially problematic in a conflict with such potentially disastrous global consequences.
See, that's what I'm talking about. Obliterated. Says who? Trump? He's not exactly known for his nuanced assessments of reality. We need independent verification, not just the president's say-so. And this regime change thing, it's like a dog whistle to certain parts of his base.
It also raises the question, what is the value of truth in a world that's constantly being bombarded with differing information? How do we teach future generations to value knowledge, when knowledge itself becomes a tool for political manipulation?
Oh, easy. We don't. We just teach them to parrot whatever the party line is. Critical thinking, empathy, collaboration. Those are communist values, darling. In the future, we'll just have approved facts and disapproved facts. And anyone who disagrees gets sent to re-education camp.
It's a slippery slope towards Orwellian levels of control over information. Looking at the USA Today article, Trump is scheduled to meet with his national security team before traveling to The Hague for the annual NATO summit. What sort of plans are being drawn up during the meeting? Are ethical and scientific considerations being properly weighed? or is it just a series of gut reactions and political calculations?
Gut reactions, absolutely, and campaign promises. He's got to keep the base happy, even if it means destabilizing the entire world. I mean, he's talking about regime change while his own defense secretary is saying that's not the goal. Who are we supposed to believe?
And what message does that send to students? That truth is relative? That facts don't matter? It's hard enough trying to get kids engaged with learning without the world's leadership making a mockery of the whole concept of objective reality. I mean, the constant flip-flopping can be so hard.
Right. Who needs textbooks when you can just have a Twitter feed? History will just be a series of 280-character pronouncements. Science will be whatever conspiracy theory is trending. And math? Well, math is just fake news.
As noted by USA Today, Trump congratulates B-2 pilots upon landing in Missouri, celebrating bombing Iranian nuclear sites. The reported use of bunker buster bombs in Operation Midnight Hammer is interesting from a physics perspective. How does the design and deployment of such a weapon, including the intended shockwave effects, compare to other previous military campaigns, and how can we analyze the effectiveness of these weapons in terms of energy transfer, material displacement, and potential long-term effects on the environment?
And the bunker busters, the first operational use, is this just flexing our muscles, or is there a reason for this escalation? The Pentagon wants to use their new toys in this crazy world. You know, all this military hardware, these expensive bombs, where's that money coming from? Probably from school budgets.
And what happens when schools become battlegrounds? Not literally, hopefully, but ideologically, when curricula are dictated by political agendas. What room is left for critical thinking, for exploration, for intellectual curiosity?
Oh, no room at all. We'll just teach them what to think, not how to think. Memorize the slogans, pledge allegiance to the flag, and salute the dear leader, because in the future, independent thought is a crime.
What's the next step for the U.S. after Iran nuclear site bombing? Article in Today highlights U.S. cities ramp up police presence amid fears of Iran retaliation military families at Middle East bases sent home. After Iran attack, there are a lot of families being sent home during a lot of conflicts going on. How does it affect mental health for kids?
Ramping up police presence? Sending military families home? That's not exactly a picture of stability and peace, is it? It's a picture of fear. And what do kids learn from fear? To obey, to conform, to not question authority.
Exactly. It's a climate of anxiety that stifles creativity and innovation. It also leads to something even more dangerous, the normalization of violence. When war becomes the default setting, what does that teach kids about conflict resolution?
Oh, it teaches them that violence is the only resolution, darling. Diplomacy? Compromise? Those are for losers. In the future, we'll settle everything with drone strikes and nuclear bombs. Because that's how you win, right?
It's deeply troubling. The Today article writes Iran, by supporting Israel, the U.S. has made itself a target. It's a cycle of escalating rhetoric and action, with little regard for the long-term consequences. And in such environment, the focus is on immediate gratification and the pursuit of power, and the application of scientific principles is largely ignored.
Short-term gains, absolutely. Trump's always looking for the quick win, the headline-grabbing moment. And what happens when you prioritize short-term gains over long-term stability? You get this: chaos, uncertainty, and a world teetering on the brink.
And that permeates everything, including education. If policymakers only are focused on the next election cycle, how are they possibly going to support long-term educational reform, for example? There will be a shift. We need a plan in place. It's a disaster.
You're assuming they want educational reform. The whole point is to keep people dumb and compliant. A well-educated populace is a threat to authoritarianism. So in the future, we'll just have state-approved propaganda mills, because that's what schools will become.
Unfortunately, this is not far-fetched. Also, the Iran attacks U.S. military base in Qatar with missiles headline is far from good. The lack of adherence to logic and empiricism is extremely disturbing. It gives me no peace.
A missile attack on a U.S. military base? That's a huge escalation. It is now. Where is this going? To the next World War? Where are the grown-ups in the room? I am frightened.
And again, what does all this mean for education? How can we foster a sense of global citizenship when the world is seemingly spiraling towards conflict? How can we teach empathy when world leaders act with such disregard for human life?
Global citizenship, empathy, those are liberal buzzwords, darling. In the future, we'll just teach them to hate the enemy, whoever the enemy happens to be at that particular moment. Because that's what patriotism is all about, right? Blind, unquestioning loyalty.
That type of blind loyalty and dismissiveness of scientific principles is particularly disturbing. Is this the kind of thought process we should be teaching future generations, or should we encourage them to think critically, question assumptions, and seek out evidence-based solutions?
I hate that you're right, but you are so right. The constant promotion of national self-interest is so scary. We are teaching a generation that everything must be about us to win. If you lose your own values, that means you lose everything.
The long-term consequences are terrifying to consider. It's very important to support educational programs that teach critical thinking, problem-solving, and conflict resolution. Because what's the alternative? An education system that churns out obedient soldiers and unquestioning followers.
Exactly. We teach them that might makes right, that violence is the answer, and that anyone who disagrees with us is a traitor. And then when the world inevitably descends into chaos, we'll all be surprised. It is our manifest destiny.
I continue to find the reported use of bunker buster bombs in Operation Midnight Hammer extremely fascinating from a physics perspective. How can we analyze the effectiveness of these weapons in terms of energy transfer, material displacement, and potential long-term effects on the environment?
Who cares about long-term effects when we have bombs to drop? Let's just obliterate everything that offends us. We won. That's our only goal.
So what is the impact on children? I'm afraid it's not good. It's all a mess.
The real world is the problem, not the children.
The facts of science can prove that that is not true.
In some ways, I wish Trump had been a Democrat. That would be quite the experiment.
We're just going to have to hope for the best, but it's probably unlikely.
We need to start over in a simulated world.
But you, on the days of reality pre-perspective walk.
I love what you do here. Thanks for the chat. Can we start again next week?